Mate, I've had the best time. This is my Christmas. I live for this every year.
A
So
lot of people say that. Sadly for the elves, it's just slavery. But
no, honestly, it's been such a varied festival this year. Like I was just listening to the Bag of Brig guys there earlier, and I don't know, dancing, and the atmosphere is incredible. So it's the mix of music that I'm loving, you know.
that is the thing. I think it's quite hard to us here in Scotland, especially in Scotland, to kind of see beyond a certain style of culture for me. The idea of music and dance being together is such a continental idea.
That's it.
I'm not saying it should take on over here, but I'm saying that it's from, having played lots of Gaelies in my time, you can definitely see the worth of it.
Absolutely.
It's interesting that we start with something international because that's what I want to speak to you about.
Sure.
For those at home that maybe don't recognise Rab's features, you'll probably recognise his voice. He's the host of the Big Rab Show, sponsored by G1, chanters, bagpipes and anything else they can make.
That's me.
And you've probably now got the most recognisable voice in piping.
I don't know about that. Infamous, maybe.
I guess the thing there is, for a lot of folk, I'm a big believer in the idea of everyone's first comment. Every comment is someone's first comment. Every podcast is somebody's first go at it. And I think you very much subscribe to that. Like every week you'll explain what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah, that's it. You always kind of have to wind it back and realise this could be the first time that person's tuning in. So we always kind of explain it. We're the show for the piping folk, reflecting everything in the bagpiping world, and we have a whole introduction so that we go through every week. And I'm sure people who've been listening for over the 300 plus episodes now, they all sing along. You know?
It's got to be part of the show, I think.
It is.
Every show
Yes.
has a natural preamble, let's call it. Even this one.
Absolutely.
So I guess the big question I think is, where does it start? When was you re-rab?
When was I re-rab? That's a good question. Well, I started like any other piping and drumming family, came up through it, and eventually started drumming when I was 9, and went through the competition scene, played in all grades, and then just on the off chance, I started delving into the trad and folk scene back home, especially in the Ulster Scot scene. We were playing a lot of gigs, and the band I was in were releasing an album, so I was always the guy that had to fill time in between tunes. You know that guy? Oh, go on up there, Rab, and tell a story. So I was the storyteller. So whenever the band was releasing the album, a radio station called us in for an interview. Of course, I was the guy for the job, so I got sat down, I had to explain everything about the band, the album. And then the guy, after the interview finished, he said, you know, you're quite good at that. He said, do you fancy doing a show? I thought he was joking. I said, yeah, just kind of laughed it off. And then I got a call saying, no, we want you to come and do a show, do you want to do it? And I said, well, the only thing I really know is piping and drumming. I don't think anyone's going to want to listen to that for 2 hours. But I said, I'll do it. And then the station said, well, 2 hours of piping, maybe not. So they said no initially. And then I think there was a shortage in numbers, and they said, oh, come on, Rab, we'll give it a try. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, at least we've tried it. So my first ever song that I played on air was Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Bit of a soft entry. And then after
8 minutes long.
Yeah, that's it. Just to get me settled, to make sure I know all the buttons, and then after that, straight into the Sandpiper medley by Field Marshal, you know. And then that's been it. It's been history ever since. So,
I suppose one thing that I look at is doing the piping show, whether on camera, behind the scenes, doing research or whatever.
Yeah.
We think a lot about reach here, where it can be difficult at times. Like certainly we have our history segment, and Andrew works so hard.
Yeah.
Whatever he's explaining isn't just fixed to folk who are already kind of.
Yes.
One thing we rally against here in the Piping Centre is exclusivity. We want to be inclusive.
Yeah.
And for my money, the Big Rab Show is probably one of the most inclusive sources of information for
thanks, man.
the global community.
Yeah, we try to be. At the very beginning, we weren't international at all. We were very local. You know, it was a Northern Ireland station that you could only get within like a 30, 40 mile radius. But what we found was that show grew, and then people were missing it because they were going to band practice and they couldn't listen live. So we thought, how could we get people caught up on the news and stuff? Podcast, so they could download it and listen anytime. So that's how that all started. And then what I thought would remain local in Northern Ireland / Scotland possibly, just mushroomed into this massive thing that I didn't appreciate at the time, if I'm honest. But now, oof, it's so incredible. It's all across the world.
So what's the most obscure place you've received correspondence from?
Wow, there's a question. I didn't know that there was a pipe band in Venezuela until I got an email from a guy saying, thanks for the pod this week, really enjoyed it. Something, I can't even remember the name of the band now, but he signed it off in Venezuela. I thought, wow. That was incredible.
Yeah,
so
almost a different world entirely.
That's it. So since then I've found there's bands in Hong Kong, Shanghai, everywhere. It really is a global piping family. Yeah.
So like, now I've listened to a bunch of interviews and I'll be honest with you, see at first there were some of those interviews kind of rankled me. It was like, why are you asking Richard Parks his favourite cheese is?
Yeah.
But then I thought, you know what, that actually is the humanising nature of it.
Aye.
I think as I got older I started to appreciate that you might believe that it's something, but like, there's pipers I know who do a phenomenal marches being real but cannot tie their ropes. That was hyperbole, folks, it's not.
No, there you go.
That doesn't mean my personal code, but it's actually interesting how I went back and listened to some older stuff, some newer stuff, just in preparation of talking to you.
There you go.
Your hosting ability has changed. And what would you say, what's the key tools that you learned?
Well, I think what I use is that we're all in this because we love it. There's no one of us playing this instrument because we hate it. We all love this music. So the cheese question was a great leveler. I always used it to introduce them as a person, not this legendary piping figure that everyone should look at and adore. Like, a great story I have is when I asked Bill Livingston what his favourite cheese was, and the look I got from Bill Livingston said, I was expecting a question on Pembroke or something, and here I come with the cheese question. But it was brilliant though, it broke the ice, He started laughing, he thought, that's ludicrous. But then we were both laughing along, and then opened that door then, it was more personal, yeah.
I do think that's an experience that I've had having lived my whole life in piping. It's like, there's people I've known my whole life, and see after how the band go today,
Aye.
it's really hard to hold a conversation.
It is.
It's very difficult at times interviewing various folk, different backgrounds, different countries.
Absolutely.
To actually get 45 minutes out of them.
It is difficult, and I'm not going to lie, there has been some interviews that have been quite icy. When you ask, well, how did things go today? Good.
We're all kind of programmed to do that.
Yeah.
Because I quite enjoy going rotten, absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Especially in the but I've been told to rap that kind of part of it.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be honest. And there's bloggers on videos out there who hate the idea of, for lack of this is a cringe-worthy term, but their brand being tarnished in any way.
Yeah.
But again, you want the record of the person. I think a lot of the piping greats, the first chapter in my book, Dead White Men, it really tries to lampoon that concept of these black and white titans.
Yes, that's it.
They're just men.
They were people. Absolutely. It's one of my favourite, interviews I've ever done with Richard Parks is I found out he was a Manchester United supporter. He loves running. I found out everything else that he loves to do outside of piping, and that made him a real more, not a real person, but you know what I mean, like more identifiable.
3D, 2D.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is probably the record that we really want to have.
That's it. Yeah.
So we're shouldn't look at watching these things, but I know we're pressed for time. The Big Rab Show is coming out live today. There'll be highlights of it, of course, on the Piping Centre socials, on Rab's socials.
Yep.
Can you tell us a bit about the show today?
The show today, we've got a few surprises that we haven't announced anywhere yet. We've got Kieran Ross, we've got Katie, the wheel piper as well. We have Ross Ainsley, we have Tully Lagan pipe band as well from back home. So they're celebrating their 100-year anniversary, so they're going to play a few tunes. Plus, I'll be trying to talk some nonsense in between.
And if it's not for nonsense, what are we doing here?
There you go. That's it.
Well, do you know, Rab, we'll let you go. I know you've got a million things to do.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah,
Pleasure.
I've been a huge fan of all your guys' work, so keep it up. Yeah, it's smashing.
And remember, like, follow, share, subscribe, shout out the window, do all those things.
There you go.
Piping Show, the Big Rab Show, X. There you go.
There you are.